Hi. It's no wonder that we are now living in the revolutionary age of information technology. And the most contributing factor behind this boom of information technology from the project management corner is the new emerging concept of Agile. In this video, I'm going to discuss the correct concept of Agile and then how many approaches and methodologies that do exist under the umbrella of Agile. And then one of the most predominant and popular framework that is being adopted by millions of project managers and variety of organizations around the globe, which is known as the Scrum Framework. So I have decided to cover the complete overview of Scrum Framework in which you will get to know all the fundamental details around that framework. So this is the first part of that episode. So without any delay, let's just get started. If you have been following me through my previous videos, so I have been constantly and intensively explaining that Agile is not a framework at all, because most of the people think that it's a framework. It's a general impression as well that Agile actually represents a framework, but in reality, Agile is not a framework at all. Neither it doesn't represent any methodology as well. And furthermore, Agile actually doesn't give you a specific way of developing software. That is again negating the true concept of Agile. Then question comes to our mind that if any of these definition doesn't actually represents the concept of Agile, then what exactly is the concept of Agile? Let's just see first the fundamental concept of Agile, and then we'll move forward with the rest of the detail. So this is more of a formal definition of Agile. So Agile is a set of values and principles that offers support to the continuous evolution of software development methods. So in a nutshell, Agile is basically a combination of 4 foundational values and is being guided by 12 principles. So if you want to get to know what are those 4 foundational values and 12 guide principles, I have actually prepared a separate video in which I have explained the 4 foundational values, and then another video in which I have explained the 12 guided principles of Agile that belongs to the Agile Manifesto. So if you are interested in getting to know the details of the 4 foundational values and 12 guided principles, the details of those videos are given in the description area. As we have seen before, that Agile doesn't actually represent any framework or any methodology, but Agile in reality is an umbrella term, and under that umbrella there are a lot many approaches and methodologies that actually exist. So if you want to get to know that what methodologies and approaches that do exist under the umbrella of Agile, you can just see it now. So under the umbrella of Agile, one of the most widely approached, and that would be the focal point of my videos, is Scrum. And then we have Crystal, and then we have Kanban, XP, which stands for Extreme Programming, DSDM, it stands for Dynamic Systems Development Method, then FDD, which is a feature-driven development, and then RUP, which is a rational unified process. And there are many more that do exist under the umbrella of Agile. So this basically concept gives you that Agile doesn't actually represent any framework, any set of practices, any specific way of developing software or any methodology, but rather an umbrella. Under that umbrella, there are wide approaches that are being adopted by many of the organizations and project managers around the globe, and those approaches actually differ. But it depends on you which approach works best in your situation, so that you can pick and choose the approach that can actually pick the desired results out of it. And this is perhaps one of the best spot where we can visualize the core difference between an Agile and one of the most widely popular framework known as Scrum. So as you can see that Agile is actually an umbrella term. It doesn't represent any framework, but under that umbrella there are a lot of frameworks that do exist. And out of all those frameworks, one of that framework is Scrum. So do remember Agile, an umbrella term. Scrum, a framework that exists that fall under the umbrella of Agile. And that's the core difference between Agile and Scrum. As we have seen that under the umbrella of Agile, there are so many approaches that actually exist. But out of this wide variety of approaches that do exist under the umbrella of Agile, there is one framework that has been adopted and is predominant and widely popular across the globe and is even practiced since decades and even being practiced now, and that framework is known as the Scrum Framework. Scrum actually originated from rugby. It's a rugby term. And the most common phrase about Scrum is that Scrum is easier to understand but can be difficult to master. And since I'm having a good footprint around the project management and I've completed a lot of projects working with different cross-functional teams spread it across different geographical regions, with different time zones, with different culture norms, with having different language preferences, and practice a lot of Scrum, so I can validate this notion that Scrum is easier to understand but can be difficult to master. And that's true, because when you start practicing Scrum, it's easier to understand, but if you want to master it, it'll take time. This is the formal definition of Scrum. So Scrum Framework is actually a combination of universal best practices from the software development industry, a set of different roles, different responsibilities, different artifacts, rules, events. So in a nutshell, it's basically a combination of universal best practices and different roles and responsibilities that comes under the framework of Scrum. You might have actually noticed that every methodology or framework sets its core foundational values at first, because those values are the actual foundations on which you are going to build your framework or methodology. So like other methodologies or frameworks, Scrum has its own set of foundational values. So Scrum has actually three foundational values: transparency, inspection, and adaption. Transparency actually represents that what done means in a Scrum project. So what is the definition of a done to a Scrum team? What is the definition of Scrum to the customer, the product owner, the other stakeholders who are involved in a Scrum project? So definition of done is a common criteria against which the customer is actually going to validate what the original requirements of the product were and then what the team has actually delivered. So once the customer actually validates the product against the requirements, and if the team has actually conforms with the requirement, it means the definition of done is achieved. It means that this is transparent, and that's the first foundational value of Scrum. And then inspection means that the customer is actually inspecting the product against the original requirements. That's the inspection. And once the inspection will be made, either acceptance or denied will be made. And then adaption means that you are going to make adaptation with the Scrum process. Are there any bad trends? Are there any variances with the product you have created? Are there any processes you have not adopted while creating any product? So are your product having any defects? If there are any defects, then you definitely need to adapt the change and makes the appropriate changes. So with this, we have now reached to the end of this video. Please give me your feedback that have you well understood the true concept of Agile, and then what's the core difference between Agile and the Scrum framework, and then more importantly, what are the core values of Scrum, transparency, inspection, and adaptation? What do you think about transparent, inspection, and adaptation? Is the difference between these three values clear to you? So put your comments in the comment section area, and I'll obviously get back to you with the best of my knowledge. So till the next video, I'll say bye bye.